All right, real men, real talk. We're back once again, having just some authentic conversation. Brothers are encouraged on a monthly basis across this country to talk, but we see it important for us to sit down and have a conversation on this podcast to dive a little bit deeper, talk about some of the things that we're finding across the country in our Real Men Real Talk sessions that serve as a safe space for our brothers to just be themselves, self-disclose. Most times you're going to find myself and JG diving a little bit deeper, self-disclosing, but you know, there's times where we're bringing some special guests on. So happy to be able to have Dr. Henry, our director of mental wellness, join us today for this conversation. And also our 2025 Columbus Black Men's Wellness Day honorary chair, Mr. Cardale Jones, is joining us.
The Cardale Jones.
The Cardale Jones.
I don't know about the.
Well, he's representing, or he's from the Ohio State University. So national champion, former NFL quarterback, doing some amazing things. I believe he's the president and CEO of the foundation, which is the powerhouse behind the NIL efforts for the Ohio State Athletics. So looking forward to this conversation. Cardale, how you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good, man. First and foremost, guys, thanks for having me. This past, I want to say, 8 months has been truly eye-opening. All the work and opportunities with the agency thus far, and looking forward to the next 8 months and then even further on down there. But this is a conversation and a segment that we've been trying to get on the books here for quite some time now. I'm glad that everybody's schedules has kind of worked out, and really kind of, like you said, man, taking a deeper dive into our mental awareness and our mental health as Black men.
Absolutely. Dr. Henry, so talk to us about some of the things that you've been seeing. You know, Cardale says something that was pretty key, that said it was eye-opening. I think that you've discovered some eye-opening things over the last few months, just with the work that we've doing, not just in Columbus, Ohio, which is where we're based out of, but around the country. We're hearing some things, some powerful things from some brothers that are starting to open up. Talk to us a little bit about some of the eye-opening things that brothers are sharing. That is something we need to highlight in this conversation.
Well, I think you ought to frame it with, we've been doing this mask off campaign.
Absolutely.
And as we have had brothers begin to take off their mask, the things that we've been finding out on the flip side of the mask are the things that really have been absolutely amazing. So when you're framing your conversation about what is happening with Black men, talk about what have we been discovering on the other side of the mask.
So the one thing is the awareness that most men are wearing a mask. And the fact that we can create a space where men feel comfortable enough to disclose what they're masking with. You know, some men are hiding the fact that they feel lonely, that they feel unworthy, that they feel so isolated enough in their pain and struggle that they can't communicate that to anyone else. But yet in that space we create with Real Men Real Talk, they share that information. And then that you could feel the weight just be removed from that man. And I mean, it's really transformative. We're doing this based in Columbus, right? But we're across the country in 22 plus cities doing this Real Men Real Talk work. So that's been just amazing to be a part of that process.
And I think that, Cardale, so we're going to put you on the spot. Has there ever been any moments and times in your life where you felt like you couldn't talk to anybody? And I mean, you wear a mask. I mean, you might not admit it, but you do. Because, you know, you are the star. You were the guy who saved Ohio State, all of that. But are there any things that's behind your mask that you have found difficult to have a conversation about?
No, 100%. I mean, and just piggybacking on what Dr. Henry has said, like, you got to think about it as Black men, how we grow up. Usually single parent household. And that's just mom.
It's reality.
You know, and sometimes unintentionally we take on that shield. We take on that quote unquote head of the household, that protector, because we see the struggles that mom is going through. And then even on the flip side, when you grow up with two parents, a mom and a dad in our Black communities, you know, we also see dad deal with so much stuff. Usually he's the breadwinner. Usually, you know, I would argue with JG and you know, you, Kenny, the way you guys grew up, you know, you're a little bit older than I am. Dad pretty much took care of everything. right? It was no time for dad to say I had a bad day at work, or I'm going through this, I'm going through that, because guess what? He got to be 100% for everybody, because he's the breadwinner. He is the way, he's the leader of the household, and he can't afford a bad day, even though all the things he may be dealing with had to be put on the back burner, because he's pretty much that superhero in our households. And of course, as me growing up, single parent, but had a lot of great father figure in my life. Had a lot of great father figures in my life. It was uncles, if it was coaches, if it was other friends, dads who just set great examples unintentionally. I mean, as we all need to understand and know that these kids are always watching. And I can point back to so many examples where I watched men and how they carried themselves, if it was around a woman, if it was around their kids, if it was around their nieces, nephews, that I was like, oh, I'm going to be like that one day. Mm-hmm. And I also seen things I said, I'm not going to do that one day. So that mask that I think I wore for so long is because another thing in our community is we're not taught to talk in environments like this. Uh-huh. We're taught to be tough. Yeah. We're taught to don't worry about that, right? Fight through it. And also that's just from the athletic background I come from as well, where I can't, it wasn't the norm to go to the coach. Hey coach, I'm having a bad day. Hey coach, my girlfriend left me. Hey coach, I didn't eat today, or last night, or, my mom and stepdad was arguing, whatever the case may be, because one thing I always knew and understood my circumstances. I was not going to complain. I wouldn't say complain. Bring things to the table in certain environments, because guess what? I knew my buddy was dealing with it. I knew my brothers and sisters was dealing with the same thing. So unintentionally, you're like, well, just deal with it. They're dealing with it.
That's good.
So I think that's a big thing in our community, that where unintentionally the things that we go through and we see, we develop that mask, because you put yourself in an environment, a situation where it's like, they're dealing with it as well, or, don't complain, or be tough, or be, we was taught that's just part of being a man.
Yeah. I think that when you talk about being told to just deal with it, I think that is like forcing someone to throw a mask on, to a sense, because you think about it, you're like, wait a minute, like, why do I have to just deal with it? Why is it that we can't have a conversation about it? And as I was thinking about some of the things that you were referencing in terms of growing up, and I immediately started thinking and reflecting back on when my dad, he would say that, we grew up playing sports. So sports, there's equipment that you got to get, right? Mm-hmm. Well, there would be some times, I'm the oldest of four, there would be some times where there would be certain things that I would want by a certain date. And he would say, yeah, I'll get this new glove by this date. But then there were times where he would come to me and say, hey, it may not be Friday, but we're going to do it on Monday. Mm-hmm. And I would be disappointed. And I do remember, and I'll never forget this, there was a time where he responded like he had an attitude that I was disappointed that he said I wasn't going to get the glove on Friday.
Yeah.
I now understand what his frustration was with me, because I didn't know that he was dealing with some bills that I'm sure needed to be paid.
Right.
So because I'm in that space where I've been in that space where I'm like, yeah, I may have told my son, or I may have told Kennedy that, hey, yeah, I'll take care of this by this date, but something else got in the way. And right now, that's not going to happen. Yeah. So, for men, black men, to be in a place where like, we're forced to kind of deal with things. I think that it's extremely important. That's why I'm happy that we're able to even sit down and have this kind of conversation, because it's not about dealing with it. Like, let's talk about this.
But then even on the flip side, though, you say that and you kind of dealt with that almost very similar to how your dad dealt with it. Think about the way that, and I try to be so intentional about parenting, and because I was parent tough.
Yeah.
I was I had a single mom until I was adopted into another single mom. But for my first 14, 15, 16 years, I was parent tough. Like my mom, and I said this in my book, my mom, I can probably count on one hand still to this day how many times my mom said, I love you. Like my biological mom. Yeah. But it was things that she did, I knew she loved me. And those type of things rubbed off on me. But I also understand the effect it had on me at a young age. Like how
to not hear those words.
exactly,
But you
and not-
saw the
exactly.
the
I saw
acts.
it, but I'm like, I feel like, you know, if it was certain times where I did good in certain things or whatever, you know, I just had to discipline my son last week, but after I disciplined him, like, hey, I love you. And, you know, we do some hard discipline in my household as far as what we do. We do all physical training. You know, I have my dog holding those arms up and he was screaming bloody murder, begging for a whooping.
Wall
You know,
squats.
but at the end of the day, you know, after what we did, you know, it was so funny because he would look at me like he was shocked when I told him I love him. He's like, no way you can love me after this. Like, no way, I still love you. But to get to your point though, how great it could have been, or it could be, to sit your kid down and explain to him, hey, I know I said I'm going to get you this, but something else came up. Listen, I got to pay the light bill.
Here's why. Yeah.
This is the
Right.
why.
Because my dad didn't explain it to me.
Exactly.
He just told me it
A
wasn't
lot
gonna
of men
happen.
like suppress that, or they think they're protecting their kids from what
Exactly.
they're dealing with. But in reality, I think you're depriving your kid from
Of
an
understanding,
opportunity
yeah.
to understand what you're going through. And then by us trying to protect them, they end up dealing with the same cycle when they become adults, hiding and hiding and hiding. And I think you said something that was great, Cardale. With your siblings going through the same thing you were going through, you felt the need to suppress your voice, right? And I think the men that we work with, they suppress their voice all the time. Oftentimes, they feel like nobody else is going through it. But now you're there's another stigma that if you know someone is still going through it, you still are trying to suppress your voice to try not to take up space.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we really got to be diligent about encouraging men to open up. Like, just talk it through. That way everybody can be on the same level playing field. You shouldn't be suppressing your voice so that you can appease somebody else or not allow them to feel like, oh, you know what? You're better than them. Like, we're all entitled to the same space, same emotions. And really, we all wear a mask. Like, a helmet is a mask for you. You know, a basketball is a mask for you. My white coat was a mask for me. JG, what was your mask?
I ain't had no mask.
Come on, JG. Oh, man.
You know what I can say about our brief relationship, that he seems like a very open book.
that is true.
And he says what's on his mind. But I think, you know, in some way, somehow, as parents, and I think also just being black men in the day-to-day things that we deal with, you know, if it's intentionally or unintentionally, or I view myself dealing with, if it's something, let's just say, for example, like, I know the big thing here in Columbus was like, I think it was the George Floyd thing. And then, and you know, how he was how he lost his life, and, you know, protests all around the country. Right. Even though that wasn't me, I wasn't George Floyd, but I will be sitting here lying and say that, you know, it didn't make me feel a type of way, or it didn't make me think like, damn, that could have easily been me. Right. And, you know, I go back to the point of me writing my book, and, you know, so many people in my life were so shocked that I decided to write a book, because I am very closed off to a certain extent. You know, I tell people all the time, you would never find anything that you can't Google about me on my social media. You know, when it comes to my kids, when it comes to my personal interests outside of sports or my job, you know, those are things you can easily Google about me. And the reason why I wrote my book, it was to pretty much show the other young Cardale Jones and young, you know, struggling kids around our country, is that, you know, somebody is dealing with the same thing you deal with. You know, I never try to make it seem like my circumstance was the hardest in the world and I got through it. I'm the luckiest person, because I know it's a lot tougher out there. Right. But my goal ultimately was to, like you said, let people know, hey, you know, other people are dealing with the same thing you're dealing with, and it's a way out, or it's a way through it.
And I think that so when people ask, my life, I've always tried to be really authentic, and always want to be my most authentic selves. So I gave up having a mask a long time ago when I was in my 20s, because what I found myself was I had like 3 or 4 different personalities. And I was like, no, this trying to be this person, I can't be that. So I had to decide, this is who I am, and you can accept me for how I am. And so, yeah, I think that one of the things that we fail to realize is that a lot of black men are raised by single women, and their emotions as it gets developed are developed from a very feminine perspective, and how they respond to stuff is how women respond to stuff. And I can only say that because I had 72 black men that worked for me. And I could tell you, you could really tell their emotional damage as it relates to how they were raised. Even when they were raised in a two-family household, you can tell how when their fathers was not connected with them. I got 4 sons, and I tell you, all of my sons know that we talk. We talk very openly. We talk. We don't hide. We talk about things that, when they were 13, I went out and bought them rubbers. And I said, hey, my desire is that you not have sex, but just in case you decide, put this in your wallet and make sure you use it. When my sons decided they were having their bachelor parties, I went to the bachelor parties and I showed them like, hey, this is what you do at a bachelor party. They was like, Dad. I was like, yeah, I'm trying to show you, because I grew up in a family where people had lots of education, but they never said, I love you. They never said, I care for you. I mean, my mother, she just passed at 92 years old, and I think I could count on my hands how many times she said, I love you. And so consequently, people kept going around talking about, are you going through, your mother's passed, that's your mom? And I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to the funeral. I was like, because I don't remember having a relationship with my mother, that my mother mothered me. And even when I was kind of thinking about that, I still tried to do the right thing by me. And so I took her to Paris, I took her to Jamaica, I took her on field trips, I did all of that. But and I did have a horrific childhood. And when I talked to my mother about the stuff that I did when I was a kid, I started drinking when I was 8 years old because I had a paper route. And on my paper route, adults would invite me in their house, and we would sit and they would have Chivas Regal, and we would drink, and I'd smoke cigarettes and have adult conversations. My mother never was there to protect me from that. And when I grew up and got healing from that by giving my life to God, I tried to have that conversation with my mother. I was like, hey, well, let me tell you what happened to me when I was a kid. And I called it right before she died. I said, hey, what made you think a 7-year-old could have had a paper route? And she said, it's because you wanted it. I was like, you thought I had enough common sense to get a paper route at 7? But at 7, I had 282 customers that I was delivering papers to. And so I did not have the perfect childhood, but what I have told people is that you do got to deal with the pain of your childhood, and somehow or another that most of us avoid that. And when we avoid that, we take them same behaviors on to your adulthood, and you take your same how you relate to your kids and how you raise your kids. So I got kids. I try to be a good dad. I've not made every baseball game. I've never made every football game, but I was the PTA president. I was the cheerleading guy. I was all of that. But I ain't never apologized for what I couldn't do. And everybody's always heard me I told my kids, I did the best I could do. And if the best wasn't good enough for you, I can't help you. But what I did do, I try to give you the better life. My father, who was an engineer, who was smart and intelligent, wasn't there. The one thing I remember was one time he said he was coming to get me to get some shoes, and he never showed up to come get the shoes. But when he got older, I talked to my dad. I said, so what's up with that? And I told him, I said, you will never be my dad, but you will always be the father on the birth certificate. And I said, and I'm trying to make sure you have a good relationship with your grandchildren. And my father told me, he said, look, I did exactly what I wanted to do, that I was big enough and bad enough to do. He said, and I ain't apologizing to nobody. And I slapped him 5, and I said, I ain't mad at you. You did your life the way that you wanted to do your life. And so what I say is that, but when we talk to men are still waiting for the father to throw them the baseball. And I tell men all the time, go buy a baseball and throw it to yourself. I mean, like, what are you waiting on? It ain't going to happen. Some things are not going to happen. And so I think Kenny is, in our conversations, experienced that while his dad and mother was there, they put on a criteria for him to be perfect. And so he's lived most of his life trying to be perfect. And then he get with us, and we find out he ain't all that perfect. But that is how he lives, and he still lives like that. He is always striving for perfection, and that's what men are living in, from 0 to 9 is when a child's personality is developed. And how you treat your kids and how fathers engage with their daughters is how they will relate to men later on in life.
That's good. So I think Kenny is a healing perfectionist. I think you said.
Yeah, I'm recovering.
I'm a recovering people pleaser myself.
Yeah.
Carla, anything
And you're really a people pleaser.
come on, JG.
Oh my God.
I'm working on it. Carla, anything from your child you feel like you're working on, recovering from?
You know what? And you know, my mom, the person who I call my mom now, Michelle Nash, she says all the time that I need therapy. That she think I have so many traumas in my life growing up before she took me over, you know, going into my sophomore year in high school. And I do remember it was a completely different lifestyle and expectations living with her. And not saying I don't think I had a bad childhood, far as like it wasn't like I was drinking, smoking, staying out late, but like little things of like you know, not telling her where I was, little things like well, what I thought was little things, right? Because I'm like, well, my mom, you know, I see my mom sometimes at night, sometimes I don't. She know I'm safe. I'm either around the neighborhood. My neighborhood was like a really tight community. If I don't come in at night, maybe I'm next door.
Yeah.
That was our norm. And so that was like a big conflict for me and her in the very beginning of our relationship. But yeah, I mean, I talk about my childhood and people look like I'm crazy and like how you here right now. And I guess I really attest that to the great father figures I had and uncles and coaches. And then me and my siblings were extremely close. But Mr. Gregory said something about, you know, really what I summed up of breaking the cycle. You know, I have a brother who has, you know, a fair number of kids, and you know, his oldest is in college. And we was going through some things last year of getting them off, sending them off to, you know, prom and getting them ready for school and all those things that we, for the most part, didn't have a chance to experience. I did. Like, I went to college because of sports, but you know, I would call him like, okay, what's up? You know, like, what are we going to do for prom? Or are we going to go fill up his, you know, chest to get ready for school and all this stuff? And all these experiences I want them to have, and him just as a dad. And his response was like, you know, me and him didn't talk for over a year because of it.
Wow.
And he was like, oh, you know, I didn't have that growing up. He cool. And I'm just like, so basically you're saying because your dad didn't do for you and you think you turned out okay, you're not going to do for your kid. And you not only have the means to, you're physically around.
Yeah.
Like, and that was a huge, it was almost a slap in the face to me as a uncle because this is my nephew, slap in the face to me as a dad because, you know, I have kids and I hate to see kids mistreated, and also a slap in the face to how we was raised because how bad we struggled. So because you're saying how we struggled so bad and your dad lived right around the corner from us, and I don't remember him ever coming to take you to go do anything, you're going to intentionally do that to yours, you know? So breaking the cycle is another big thing that we're not the best of in our community, you know, as just African Americans, period, not just men. And I kind of reverted a little bit deeper than that to all the way back when we were brought over here through slavery, when the slave owners created despite within each other of quote unquote house niggas versus field niggas, you know, and how they looked at each other. So I think it's deeper. I think it's actually embedded to a certain extent in our DNA of being spiteful at times towards each other or jealous of each other unintentionally, where we have to work so hard intentionally to be proud of each other.
Yeah, that's something that you mentioned that because we had that conversation quite a bit. I know JG and I, when you see how he and I are working in this space together, we're really trying to be an example and be a model that can be duplicated around the country because we need more of it.
And I said it all the time, like, I don't, and a lot of things that I'm doing or you guys are doing, or I see that not just Black people, but people doing a high level, I said that shit is we can duplicate that.
Yeah.
It's not something,
There's
it's not
no
a secret.
Nah.
Yeah. You can do that. And I think the duplication comes from conversations like this.
Absolutely.
Surrounding yourself with like-minded people like this. Let's go do what they did.
But that
I
break the
mean,
cycle is powerful, man. And that's why we've
is.
been saying that, that's something that we have to really use as a focus, in addition to us having our mask off campaign, is the importance of breaking that cycle.
But I think you have to be intentional about that. Like
that goes back to my point. Yeah,
I
it's
was
very
intentional about not making sure my children did not experience what I experienced.
Yeah, you
Same here,
like
yeah.
destroyed that idea. Like
And
you
so,
made sure that it didn't happen to them.
we celebrate birthdays, and my kids' best friends are my kids. I paid for their weddings. I've gone to their graduations. We celebrate every holiday. We celebrate each other. My kids all have a group meet together. They keep in touch with each other, because what I was like, I'm not going to do what would happen to me. And so, and nobody around me. And then all the guys that work for me, I make sure, like, hey, pay your child support, go see your kid. And I've had 2 or 3 guys that I have to let them know, don't come back to work until you get a hold of your kid and get a relationship with them. Because to me, you do have to break that cycle. And, and I was fortunate enough to grow up with both of my brothers have a degree, both of my sisters have a degree, my grandmother had a degree, my mother had a college degree, but none of them, not near one of them ever, and even my brothers and sisters to this day, we do not have a loving relationship. But what I said is, I was not going to allow that to be who I was, particularly since I'm a person walking around talking about God is my savior. Yeah. And I love God. And so when people look at our family and my kids, I really feel bad for them, because now they have become, they are really nice people. And most people say that my kids are, if they need you, if you need something, they're going to go after you. They're going to help your family out. They're going to help families out. But that was me breaking that cycle. Yeah. And I think that what you have to recognize is it is a cycle. And you have to be intentional about breaking that cycle. And for you as the dad or as the man, it takes some sacrifice of your own. Because I tell my kids all the time, I don't even like kids. But guess what? I did tents in my house. I slept in the tents at nighttime. We didn't have water battles through the neighborhood. Every Christmas, I put up Christmas lights. The whole neighborhood at Christmas come help put up the lights. Then we go get coffee and hot chocolate and stuff. But I was intentional about that, because what I wanted to do is make sure that my kids did not experience anything that I experienced.
Yeah, and it goes back to the point, and I think the key word of this last 10 minutes has been being intentional. Yeah. Because like I said before, I don't think it's anything special that we're doing outside of putting in the effort and putting in the energy. So, and it takes to be intentional. It takes to say, hey, I want to really do this. I mean, the way you grew up, the way Kenny grew up, the way I grew up, it wasn't like we had a silver spoon. Don't get me wrong. It's been things that we encounter through our lives that help us, ultimately do the things we want to do in a high level. But it's really, like I tell people, I don't think I'm more special than you, man. I think, my desire to want to do something, that's extremely strong, but being extremely intentional about everything I'm doing, I think is the key.
That's good. And I feel like to break something, it's hard to break what you can't see. I think a lot of the guys we work with don't know what they're trying to break. They're struggling with certain things, but they haven't named it. They haven't identified it. You mentioned the ancestral trauma from traveling the Atlantic to come here. A lot of us have parental trauma, father wounds, mother wounds. It really takes a space created to voice those things. And then once you name it, then you can direct some action towards it, right? And I think that's what we're doing with Real Men Real Talk, just giving that opportunity for men, that safe space to help save Black men's lives and break these cycles, right? So there's a reason why we're not the same parents the way that we were parented, some of us. We're taking intentional steps to do things differently because we've identified the need to do that, right? So, and breaking the cycle has been our theme this year as we're kind of coming off the mask off piece of breaking the cycle. And we're just helping men identify those things, naming them, and then attacking them.
So, Dr. Henry.
Yes, sir.
Tell me, you and I have experienced divorce.
Yeah.
And, and the trauma around divorce. I don't remember the trauma. I just remember that was a great day. But but
No mass at all.
That is a JG perspective.
No mass
for
at
sure.
all.
Y'all, nah.
but when you think in terms of that, many out there, and as we kind of conclude this conversation, talk to me about what's the first step to breaking the cycle.
So with relationships specifically, I remember before I got married, I said I would never get a divorce. So first, never say never, right? Because you never know. Sometimes you need to leave and you hold on to something that's long gone, right? So I think is identifying what's going on and then accepting it, right? So when certain things are over, certain seasons pass, accept the change, embrace the change, and move forward. But divorce specifically, even when you're not getting along, anytime you're ripping two people apart who have become one, it's gonna hurt. Like there's pain involved. So take some time to heal. And I think a lot of men don't take the time they need to heal. They jump out of the relationship into another relationship, into another one, never pausing to identify, okay, well, what was my role in what didn't work out? And then how do I need to break the cycle to then be better? So I think those steps worked for me. And I embrace all men to consider that same thing. Like, don't keep chasing something if you haven't worked on yourself to attract what you truly desire.
So, Kenny,
What's up?
you got to break the cycle of, you've really broken the cycle of perfectionism. So talk to me, what steps did you have to take to break that cycle of perfectionism?
Well, I had to start asking Kenny, what did Kenny really want? Because Kenny was so addicted to making sure that everybody around me was pleased by a list of things or expectations that they had for me, whether it was my career or the way I was raising my family or the different things that I would choose to do with my time. With my dad growing up, I'm a PK, and my dad being a PK as well, he dealt with
What's a PK, Kenny?
a preacher's kid, and I'm a preacher's
Problem
grandkid
kids.
too. So, there's a lot that comes with that lifestyle and that upbringing. And so for me, seeing my dad decide to break the cycle of doing things differently than how his dad raised him, with being in the church and prioritizing the importance of being present. Like my dad coached our baseball teams, basketball teams. He was very hands-on with our upbringing. But for me, I had to get to a place where like the job that I have now, the role that I have now, it does require me to move around the country. And so I am not present all of the time. But when I am in town, when I am present, I am present. But I know that comes with some opinions that might not be, I guess, aligning with what someone else would have for what they would like for me to do. So I got to a place where I no longer cared about other people's opinion, whether it was mom, dad, church folk. Because I knew the stronghold that those opinions and the temptation to let that have so much control and power over the things that I was doing. I said, nah, because I'm making sure everybody else is good and then I'm miserable. Right. And I'm like, nah, I can't keep doing this. And so like Big Sean got a song, talking about breaking the cycle on one of his projects. And I had to like really like begin to just say to myself every day that I'm happy with prioritizing me now. Yeah. Like I'm shattering that cycle of trying to just continue to people please or being addicted to perfectionism. And I want to be happy with who Kenny is, whether you like it or not. So if I decide to live in Columbus or decide to move and go somewhere else, if it's what I want to do, I'm going to do it. Because what I did notice, and this is what helped me too, to answer your question further, is that the people who had the power and the stronghold on my life, they wasn't asking me for any opinions of mine for the decisions that they were making.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So why am I giving them that type of power?
Yeah. You hit
And
the
they
nail
give
on
me
the head.
zero,
Yeah.
zero consideration on any of their decisions.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head about pretty much, I guess, not caring. And I had always had a saying, and I don't know if I heard it before or seen it before, but I'm just like, your opinion of me it's not my business.
I love that.
Your opinion of me is not my business.
That sounds like some
You know?
JG stuff right
So
there.
I don't know if I heard that or seen it before. And I think when I really came to I don't think I really ever cared about someone's opinion of me, to be honest. I mean, I grew up with nothing. You can't. I know I'm dirty.
Silly, man.
I know. I know
a
I'm wearing this shirt again. This is what I got.
You're a Care Source kid, right?
I'm a Care Source kid.
Shout out to Care Source.
Yeah, so I grew up like that. That's my norm. So going with, I always say I rarely had what I wanted, but I feel like I had what I needed. I had it. They might be the newest shoes. They might be the cleanest, but it's going to protect my feet when I walk from here to 2.5 miles away to go to school.
Wow.
So I never been materialistic. I never really cared, because another thing, like I said before, which also helped, is my siblings going through the same thing. My closest friends going through the same thing. I'm seeing this. This is our norms. Don't get me wrong. You guys, that's nice. But, that's a fairy tale to me. Yeah. That's so unattainable to me that I don't even care about trying to get it. And then I think I revert back to my playing career at Ohio State when I was a freshman, I made an inappropriate tweet to their standards, to people's standards. But why should we have to come here to play school and all this other crap? Yeah. And I remember this is right when Twitter had just pretty much came out, and all the responses I was getting, and so many negative, some people was agreeing with me, but so many negative comments was coming at me from analysts who I looked up to, from just random fans, and you do all this, and I'm like, dang, man, I'm like, at the end of the day, like, that's just how I felt as a kid at that individual moment. Then we fast forward 1.5 years, 2 years later, when I thrust into the starting role, and some of these same people telling me how great I am and loving me and things like that. And that's when it clicked for me right then and there. I'm like, 48 hours ago, you couldn't care if I got hit by a car. Now I'm all this to you.
Right.
Yep.
So it hit me like a freaking freight train, where it's just like, no offense, they supporters, they fans, whatever, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's not going to change my desire to want to be great. That's not going to change my desire to win. And I'm not going to affect it either. I'm not going to let it affect it, because if I do good, they're going to love me. If I do bad, they're going to hate me.
So Cardale, that's a good place for me to answer this question. We talked to so many athletes, Ryan Mundy,
Penny Hardaway.
What was the Super Bowl
Branch.
guy?
Yep. Deion Branch.
A bunch of guys.
Pac-Man Jones.
And all of them talk about that last moment that they realized they were no longer in the limelight. Talk to me about how'd you deal with that?
The transition for me from professional or just football period, I think it was pretty smooth. I got to give a lot of credit to a place like Ohio State, who prepared us for the real world after football. All the lights and glamours and those things was never something I played for. I could do without it. I can just go in to be able to support my family. I'm not even saying making millions and millions, but to support my family and play this game as long as I can, if that was the dynamic of professional football, and not had a worry about it. I can play this thing with a dark visor, don't want to know who I am walking down the street. So all of the things that come with being a high caliber athlete never moved the needle for me. And I told you guys this before. I was never financially driven because I never had money. I was always goal driven. I was always purpose driven. If I can be on this team, if I can be a part of this organization where I know I can provide value, I'm going to give it my all on top of enjoying it. That was always like that for me for sports. So the limelight of it, we call it when they stop cheering. I'm cool with that. I was cool with that. I'm good with doing the things I love to do behind the scenes and making a lot of things work, and knowing that I get self-gratification for knowing that I'm okay with boosting you up. I'm cool with that, right? They don't need to say, oh, Cardale Jones boosted them up, or Cardale Jones is a part of this. As long as the people who know in this circle and in my room knows that it's a collective effort to get this job done. If my 2 cents is worth 20% of this project or 80% of the project, I'm happy to contribute. So when that athletic career my athletic career kind of, came to a halt because of COVID for the most part, I knew I did everything in my power to continue to further that career. Now, another thing that athletes have a huge thing and a huge problem with accepting is that things that's out of your control. A lot of guys have big issues in transitioning to life after football, life after their sport, because they have so many regrets. They have so many wish I could have did this, or I should have did this, or I wish I wouldn't have did this. And I can proudly say I don't have many of those. I mean, I can probably say, man, I shouldn't have ate, that burger that one night or something like that.
Right.
But I can say I left no stone unturned. I put in the extra work. I studied as much as I can. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I didn't party. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed myself, but it just wasn't in my plans for me to have a career longer than I had, and I was okay with that.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the reason why we chose Cardale as our 2025 honorary chair for Black Men's Wellness Day, because of the character that he exhibits as it relates to being a Black man and an example to other Black men. And so we invite you to come out when, Kenny?
So we invite everybody to save the date, August 9th, Saturday, August 9th. We will be having our Black Men's Wellness Day at Livingston Park, Columbus, Ohio, where we will be raising awareness, walking to save Black men's lives, to provide access to free health screenings, because our brothers are dying way too fast and too young in the hands of preventable diseases. We say it's the most fun you'll ever have at a doctor's appointment, right? You never know who's going to show up. We've had tons of surprise celebrities come through. We're anticipating tens of thousands of people. It's a great time. It's live entertainment, vendors. It's something for the entire family. Kids zones, senior pavilion. But we got some things coming up prior to that, leading into that event. Everything that we're doing is all roads leads to Black Men's Wellness Day. So Dr. Henry, share with us about what we got going on within our men's initiatives with the agency coming up.
Absolutely. For those of you who are in Columbus, Ohio, we have Dad's Matter Day, Saturday, June 7th, actually. We'll have
January.
June 7th. We're going to have fishing. We're going to have a grilling cook-off, car show. Just a great time for fathers to engage with their kids. We talked about parenting here, so all dads are invited to come out. We have our Mental Wellness Summit, which is the pinnacle of our wellness initiative for the program. July 17th. It's a Thursday. If you're in Columbus, if you're across the country, come out. Can I share the featured speaker?
Absolutely.
All right. Drum roll, please. All right. So we're having Marlon Wayans. Marlon Wayans is going to join us for our fireside chat. It's going to be a great time. We have small group breakout sessions. We fun, food, but just a great conversation to help men move the needle forward in their mental wellness journey. And if you're not even in the Ohio area, again, we're having this Black Men's Wellness Day tour across the country. Find a Black Men's Wellness Day in a city near you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
JG, you got any final words before we sign off for this episode?
Yeah, I would say that our theme has been Black men are dying. You don't have to.
Nope.
Yeah.
We almost lost Jamie Foxx, but we don't want to lose you. So, hey, go get checked up. Know your numbers.
Know your numbers.
Move. See your doctor. But join us on Black Men's Wellness Day. No matter where we are in the country, come get a free health screening. Kenny said it's the most fun you'll have at a doctor's appointment, and it's free.
Absolutely. For more information, go to aawellness.org. Follow us on all social media platforms. Hey, we're looking to build with you, brothers. As always, we are here for you. We're going to walk this journey together. Until next time.
What does he have to say?
Cardale, you got something, last words for us?
I appreciate it, man. This is definitely much needed. Happy that we had a chance to connect and get together. I'm looking forward to the walk. So appreciate it.
I feel like Cardale's like a perfect person here. Like
perfect.
Like,
he fits.
of all the guys,
I wouldn't say perfect. Don't be. You was just clowning Kenny about perfection. Don't be something perfect. Nothing.
All the guys we interviewed, I've been like, okay, we had one of the saints here.
I think with Cardale, what I took from him and his conversation was that he kind of got some JG in him. JG, as far as just like
you gotta like me
it's
or
an
not.
open book.
It's like
like
me or not.
Here it is. is. Like, I'm gonna just
way.
give it to you,
Right.
Because even when you go back to that tweet, that that viral tweet that happened,
We
that a
didn't
lot
come
of
here to
people
play school.
think about it. Like he only tweeted what a lot of men are afraid to. They're thinking it. They're just afraid to say it, and they're definitely afraid to tweet it. But you got a guy like JG that he gonna say what he gonna say, and you're not gonna have any gray there.
He probably retweeted it.
Yeah.
Oh, he probably did.
Hell yeah! Who that like that kid? Put him in the game.
Absolutely, because if you think about it, like for him to go down that list of his loved ones who got education, but then when you look at how successful JG is, and then also the impact, but then at the core of all of that is love, like that's winning, and that's really how life should be lived. Whether you are a man of faith or not, and whether you are spiritually grounded, like that's the action, like that's really the assignment that's been placed on our lives.
And you know what? And to close with this for my final remarks, man, I really want the dash to be my impact. Another JG thing.
I
really want my
dash
to be
his impact. So you always talk about life has what, 2 bookends, right? Yeah. He talks about this all of the time.
It's that simple for me. Like when you looking at that gravestone and that, it don't go too big. I told my kids I ain't leaving much. You know what I'm saying? I ain't leaving much.
Another JG.
I ain't living much. But I really want the dash to be the impact, man. And outside of sports. So the sports for me was always an avenue, man.
I go like there's 2 bookends. There's death and there's birth. Yeah. And in between, what happens? And the truth of the matter is nobody's going to remember, oh, you drove a nice car, you had a big house, you had all that. But what they will remember is the impact that you had on their life. Yep. And 20 years from now, somebody's going to say, you know that old man named Cardale? He really gave me some nuggets for life, and this is how I'm raising my kids now, or this is how I'm doing this. And that's what's valuable, is I have so many people call me up and go like, hey, Mr. Gregory, you would not believe, this kid called me the other day. This could not be on tape, they don't have to. This kid called me the other day. He said, hey, Mr. Gregory. I said, what's up? He said, this is your oldest son. I was like, oldest son? Don't sound like no kids of mine. But I was like, oh, is this one of them 23andMe people? So he said, no, this is your oldest son. You don't know who I am? I said, no. He said, it's his doc. He said, remember I graduated in 2015. He said, I just want you to know I got a 4-bedroom house in Pickerington. I'm taking care of my daughters. And I just want you to know and say thank you that you put me on the right track. This is a kid whose father, I was on the elevator with him, called and told him, dude, you ain't got to suffer. I got a rock for you. You can come sell it. And I remember getting on the phone with the dad and say, don't you ever call him again and ask him that. I said, he is here trying to get his high school diploma. He's going to do something different in life. And that kid made a difference in his life decision against what his father wanted him to do. Wow. That's impact.
Yeah, that's impact. That's impact.
Well, there it is.
All right, guys.